to Xaverine, Nirere. Absolutely fabulous. She emerges into the light in front of the hordes that will line our route today. And she takes on what is a historic moment, but also quite a technical introduction to what is a long run of 31.2 kilometres. Now, because of the climbing, we shall wait to see our predictions as far as the length of each of these individual runs. But by the time they finish, they will know that they have been fully tested. Taking it gingerly, of course, at first. Last thing you want is to get yourself unstuck on some of those technical corners. But there's some rises and falls to this course today, some of which are extraordinarily significant. They'll be going off at 3-minute margin. I think the first is 2.5-minute margins, I beg your pardon, for this run. And here we are, 2 intermediate splits for the women's. The markers will be after 10.6 kilometres at 19, and then for the full 26. So we'll keep tabs. She needs to settle herself in, kind of put behind her the stadium that she's just left, and then start to invoke that thing that time trialists get into, known as the zone.
Absolutely. I absolutely loved the fact that she was allowing herself to enjoy that moment. Quite evidently, she had a smile, didn't she, on that start ramp? And it's such a historic moment for her, for everybody involved. It's huge. And yeah, I can imagine it's such a fine balance to absorb that moment, but as you say, go straight into that full focus. And yeah, loads to dissect in terms of what lies ahead on the course today.
Yeah.
Very happy because it's my home. It's a big story for my country, also for me. Yeah, I'm very excited. It's so fun.
What is going to happen here during the week? It's going to be crazy. A lot of people.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Everyone wants to see the Hogi, the world champion. Yeah.
I don't know who handed out the whistles. Hopefully they don't swallow it, because the excitement levels here are very, very high. We have 44 riders, I beg your pardon, from 36 nations competing here. Time for Qatar to start her run. This is Kholoud Al-Kuwari off the ramp and underway. Absolutely spectacular. I love the fact that the World Championships respects all nations, all champions. There will be some great divergence in terms of the times that we achieve at the end, but representing your nation, celebrating cycling, is what the UCI World Championships are all about.
It really is. And as you say, we are going to see huge differences in times throughout today. But I think something that's really prominent is the difference that we'll see in tech. And actually, we saw Xaverine Nirere go off with a brilliant setup there. But we'll, in the early riders, of course, see quite a big variation in whether riders have the team support, have the funding for the team to have the full TT setup. Of course, we are going to see a lot of these early riders on their road bike setup, and that's what we'd expect to see. But as you say, the opportunity for these different nations, for riders to go up against the world's best, to gain that experience, to fill the World Championships, is what it's all about. So it'll be interesting to see the different technology that we see on the lineup today.
And Yeri, still with 29 kilometres of her run to be taken. Wide open highways at the moment. As you can see, the road surfaces here are absolutely impeccable. They've been looking forward to and preparing for these Road World Championships for such a long time. And this nation, after its troubles, of course, with the genocide in 1994, has rebuilt itself with the care and attention, I think, of the world, really. And the goodwill that has poured onto this nation is absolutely huge. And it just shows you how regeneration and indeed looking towards the future can actually bring an amazing nation, which is what we're dealing with here. Rwanda, I urge you to come and visit. It is spectacularly friendly. And indeed, when you look at the countryside here as well, there is so much for you to enjoy. Today, of course, we're going to be playing with the roads, but we'll have some spectacular shots, and we'll be taking you around Rwanda as well to enjoy. Ethiopia, also noted as a great cycling country as well. We've had some terrific riders come out of Ethiopia. And this is Ser Kalem Watango about to get underway. There's a lot of support has come from all the African nations to make sure that they give their riders an amazing send-off.
Yeah, there really has. And you look at the qualification process for the UCI World Championships, and there are opportunities, as we nodded to before, for riders to have representation, that they are able to have a spot for their nation to line up. And of course, we've known that this is going to be the first time for a little while now that we would see the championships take part in Africa. And so there's been so many of these nations able to prepare to field this. And we've said, time and time again already how special this is. That we've also had the brilliant work of Team Africa Rising. Since 2007, they have been working on the development originally in Rwanda, known as Team Rwanda Cycling, but it's further expanded in that time to really focus on under 23 junior development so that these young riders are ready to field at this level.
Absolutely. And as you look at Watango from Ethiopia, she is just 23 years of age.
On est arrivé il y a 3 jours avec l'équipe du chrono mixte. Voilà, on a passé,
I'll be here. I've been here for 3 days. Very much looking forward to the mixed TT later on. It's super lovely here. It's everyone's been so kind. We've been out having a ride. We're exploring. I've been sweating a lot as well, to be honest. I think it's going to be super demanding, really very hard, and with the altitude and the humidity as well. I believe that it's going to be one of the toughest championship runs of my career. That was Xaverine who earned her place at her third World Championships after a strong season where she finished 8th overall in the Tour de France, you might remember. She's also French national champion. Earlier in the season, she won the national title for the second time in her career. And, beating her compatriot, Juliette Labousse.
I'm really excited to see Xaverine in action today because I think what we have learned, if nothing else, over the last couple of seasons is not how well she can climb, but how much she keeps the pressure on descents as well. So keep an eye out for Xaverine.
It's Monica Kiplagat from Kenya. Do you know what? I think the drumming send-off is getting bigger and bigger as everyone just gets the flavour.
Oh, the anticipation for today has been so high, and it's been a long time coming because, of course, the preparation that goes in, not months ahead, but years ahead in securing the World Championships coming, and then all the preparations that go into that. So you can really sense that, can't you? That it's come to fruition, it's finally here, and it's exciting times.
It really, really is. I mean, when you look down the roster of nations that are here, this is, if nothing else, at least in the early stages, a massive celebration of cycling itself. I mean, look at the fans at the side of the road and how much respect as well they are giving the riders. This is an unusual thing, of course, for the entire African continent to have such an amazing event come and grace this sport. In a heartland, I've got to say, of cycling, then it's a privilege for us to witness and, of course, for the fans to be able to cheer on in this, one of the most populous nations, I think, in all of Africa.
Completely. And as you said, we're going to start getting a gauge with our intermediate time checks, aren't we, of who's going to go into the hot seat, who might stay around in that hot seat for quite some time today, because of course sometimes we do see an early rider sit in that position for quite some time. And it was interesting, wasn't it, looking down the start order at who's perhaps going off when. So the reigning champion, of course, Grace Brown, is not fielding this race. It was a really interesting one, wasn't it, that she won so big in so many ways and then said, right, I'm retiring, I'm happy now, I'm off. And many people might or might not have seen that she announced this morning that she is pregnant. So huge congratulations to Grace Brown. And it was such a joyful post because she said, you know, I am really excited to see a new world champion crowned today. Somebody else take this jersey, and it's not going to fit me for much longer, and I'm not going to be able to stay in the time trial position for much longer because I'm having a baby. So huge congratulations to Grace Brown.
Grace, if you're watching, it's been a pleasure to watch you, and best of luck. It's a wonderful time you've got coming. Here is Bokpo Congo from Botswana, off and underway. Yes, she was in the Bebekeri Charity Cycling Challenge, the activation ride. So presumably starting a whole new raft of yet more races. Where she got herself a top 10, and as a youngster, this is going to be huge for her. Next up will be Natalia Frolova, one of the individual neutral athletes that will be getting us off and underway. The first benchmark, I think, and possibly somebody that may well find quite a few riders out there, will be Harmony Ahowisu from Benin. One of, I think, not amongst the favourites, but two-time Benin champion, extraordinarily. Of all the African riders, I think she's possibly going to be one of the very best. And she lines up with other very strong time trialists. Just completed the Maryland Cycling Classic in Baltimore, so starting to indeed go global as well, which is what this is all about. Bringing yet more African athletes to the pro peloton, be that women's or indeed men's, is very much an aim. This is a sport that celebrates the individual. It also celebrates national pride, and there have been many countries that have actually moved to cycling as a form of national promotion. And you've got to say that Rwanda has done that really well with excellent racing in this country for many years.
Yeah, for a long time now, we've really seen that development, haven't we? And its presence has just been so known on the world stage of cycling, and the amount of work they're putting in to develop this sport. And I think that is what's quite prominent when you look at the early starters today, is that if you do look down their palmares and their list of results, they are a lot sparser, I guess. They're more sparse than we'll see at the pointy end of the action. But as you say, there's a lot of context to that, and we've got a lot of these early riders who've fielded bigger races and not finished them, but gaining that experience is just so crucial to that development, as you say, not only for individuals but for them as an entire nation. So yeah, the levelling up of these riders today, this is a big deal.
Frolova coming off the ramp to start her run. These guys' arms are going to start hurting a little bit later on. I mean, can you imagine the impact on those wrists?
I think they've put in so much training. They are ready, Carlton. But having said that, I mean, talking about measuring efforts today with this course, I think they're going to have to start looking at measuring their effort there with the impact on the arm and wrist area. But no, jokes aside, I think it's going to be really interesting to look at the pacing. Of course, in our sport, we see a lot of short time trials, perhaps part of Grand Tours and multi-stage races. But today, this is a really important measured effort. And you've talked about the nature of the climbing and the elevation gain today. And in the land of 1,000 hills, it's not a small feat to make sure you pace it on the climbs. But really pivotal to that, when you look at all the elements that we're throwing at riders today, is the fact that they are riding at altitude at 1,500 metres. Also, you're looking at things like the air quality, and actually going into the red too early on the ascent with that pressure, I guess, to recover for the rest of the effort. Pacing is going to be so critical. And again, we'll have riders that have done a lot of full recce's, riders that haven't, people that have acclimatised, people that have had less time to do that. Also, when we look to the latter part of our field today and our later starters, it's really interesting to look at who's been fielding all the stage races, who's been maybe hiding and coming in a little bit fresher, having perhaps done more altitude training. So I'm really excited to see some of the unknowns answered today, because, yeah, pacing is going to be critical in this part of the world.
Well, this is the Volcano National Park, Rwanda's northern province, a place of legend, really, you might say. Mist-covered peaks is what it's all about. The walking and indeed some of the wildlife that you will come across is absolutely outstanding. Take yourself a local guide, by the way, if you are coming to these parts. It's by, I guess, for many European standards and beyond, it is not an expensive endeavour. And if you have a local guide, you're going to get the very, very best out of your experience. And experience is what we're here for. Tanzania's Jamila Abdullah is next off the ramp. And I swear that these guys are getting into party zone at the moment. I'm actually wondering who it is that they are teeing themselves up to give their biggest send-off to. And I think it's going to be Diana Igabire of Rwanda, who goes off very, very late and may well indeed be one of those that they're going to be screaming for. Yeah, it's a terrific day, this.
We'll have to see how they're getting on at the early time split, aren't we? Whether
yes. We are. Well, we've still got some time to go. Last rider will be coming off the ramp at 10 past midday local time. That's the same as Central European time. The latitude was explained to Rebecca this earlier on. There's no
Thanks, Carlton.
there's no time gap if you leave Europe and head due south. There's no jet lag, so fill your boots, get to Kigali.
You've answered all my questions now about international travel.
We have 2 splits along the way. First timing point. Comes at the top of that more than a little ramp that you've just seen. We're riding along here with Kiplagat of Kenya, and just look at the pace here. Perhaps this helicopter shot doesn't show you just how much of a grind this, but it's long, Rebecca. We take on the Côte de Nyanza twice. We do it once from this direction, and then, of course, we're using both sides of the highway. We do a dead turn at the southernmost tip of our course today, and then we come back and we do it again. First time is 2.5 kilometres at 5.8%, and you can see by the pace that really does start to eat in.
Yeah, and I think we so often cannot see from the TV screen just how much the gradient is biting and how much the other elements, like being at altitude to an extent, when you're looking at a course that's this kind of distance, it's longer than a lot of these riders will have contended with in terms of pacing and effort. So, yeah, I don't think we can fully appreciate sometimes how much those gradients grind when we're definitely sat in comfy chairs. But, yeah, the Côte de Nyanza will be really interesting, as you say, almost at 6% there as an average. And it will be also very telling to see these early riders do that dead turn, because I think that when we are looking at podium places later on today, it's going to be crucial to see how the riders do head towards some of these technical sections, how they do take the dead turn, can they carry any speed through, how much are they going to stay in the skis in TT position, and what gradients might force them out of that, and obviously measuring the aero gains of staying in position versus navigating anything slightly more technical to not lose that pace. And it's such a fine balance, and we've seen, haven't we, some of the best TT riders in the world, in men's and women's cycling, push to the limit to the extent that they crash. And I think it's such a balance, isn't it? It's such a fine line to absolutely push everything you can against the clock, but measure it enough, not only in not going into the red and burning too many matches before that first split. But yeah, there's so many elements to get right, and it sounds so simple, doesn't it? It's the race of truth. You're going against the clock, but when you throw all the elements into the mix, that's why some people are TT specialists and some people never nail it, because you've got to be on that limit without ultimately coming off when you're riding into a winning position.
Very much so. Pedestrian crossing just barriered off here. Great respect for the race, and I haven't seen, it's impeccably clean as well, I've got to say, the course. A little suggestion of some dust at the side of the road here, which is, of course, a time trialist nightmare when you get into a turn. And you can see from the ebbing and bobbing, really, here of our time check as she sets her intermediate at a 19 10. That's our first benchmark, first checkpoint for us today. So 20 minutes into the run, and having done that rather hellish grinding climb, a little bit of respite. I always think it's unkind when you get through a timing check and then you have to carry on climbing beyond it on a course such as this. Potapova is next to come off the line for Kazakhstan, a place where I've enjoyed the Asian Games and indeed plenty of others. Kazakhstan very much part of the forefront of cycling sponsorship as a nation. Familiar colours, of course, from Astana, the name of not only the team but also the capital of that great nation. And I guess colour scheme wise, pretty similar to the national colours of Rwanda as well, so maybe an extra cheer, I think, as well as she gets off and underway. Now, humidity today is quite high. We are, of course, in the tropics, reminded of the ever-present, there's a silverback there. I've been called that myself in the past, but anyway, I'm more kindly. Actually, they are extraordinarily gentle creatures, and if you actually get to go to the national park here, and we'll be having another little look at that perhaps later on. Yeah, it's spectacular. You can actually get extraordinarily close to, indeed, the gorillas. Guided, of course, I'll let you know. But yeah, part of a conservation program which has seen the mountain gorillas extend in terms of their population. And the Big Five as well in some of the national parks, including the Big Five are, I didn't know these were the Big Fives. I knew elephants, yes, zebras, giraffes, rhino, of course, and then buffaloes. I don't know, but anyway, yeah, apparently it's part of the Big Five. But anyway, the Big Five here at the Akagera National Park, they have, I've got to tell you, just that they have raised 70 southern white rhinos. So yeah, they know a thing or two about conservation in these parts. It's absolutely spectacular. This is the King's Palace, the museum at Nyanza. This place, there was an original settlement, would you believe, that's been found that dated back to 8000 BC. Now, it was nomadic peoples, but the King's Palace, when the kingdom was established of Rwanda, looked something like this, and it's been recreated, and it is absolutely beautiful. It is essentially, I believe, pandanus leaves, which are indeed sewn together, hung upon, indeed, poles, and then assembled into this amazing palace. I mean, look at it. It's absolutely stunning. The Royal Palace of Nyanza, the King's Palace Museum, is here. So you can kind of get a look back into what life was like back in the day. They continue. This is Kenya's Kendra Tabo coming off the ramp. I'm just actually looking at, you know, you actually look at some of the dates of birth here, and I start to think, gosh, I can remember what I was doing then, and it didn't seem that long ago.
I'm absolutely with you, Carlton. When I was looking down all the dates of birth for our start list today, I was thinking, hang on a minute, because of course we talked about the fact that we've had so many development riders coming in today, and those dates of birth are shocking to me.
Yes, exactly. Well, that just shows you how long in the tooth we are and how youthful and exuberant these athletes are. Frolova is busy eating into the 2.5 minute athletes. No surprise, really, this individual neutral athlete, Natalia Frolova. She's got a palmarès about her, and clearly the strongest of our early starters, so we'll see what her benchmark is. I think that will give us a real measure of how we go on from here. 16.7 kilometres from home for Xaverine Nirere. I think she would like to get home without anyone having passed her, and I think she's possibly going to do that. Frolova might have her within her sights, but the starting time between the pair of them was 13 minutes, so that's a lot of ground to make up. But then again, I'm actually thinking I wouldn't be surprised by some of the athletes here sort of nudging up towards the 50-minute mark by the time they complete today. It's a tough course.
It's really tough, and we could see that, couldn't we, as we saw that gradient increase, just how sapping it is in so many ways. And it is about measuring that effort, as we've touched upon. But we are going to see big time gaps today. We are going to see big discrepancies in this field, and it will be really interesting to see who we have in that early hot seat. But I do agree. I think Nirere should go into that. We'll be able to get some more information as we go, and I think it'll also be really interesting to get sighting of all the points that these riders have been talking about. That dead turn, the cobbles, everything they've got to contend with today. We'll have an idea in a moment.
Well, here is Harmony Ahowisu of Benin getting herself off and underway. One of the strongest time trialists in Africa. She's done a lot of work. It was she that took part in the Maryland Cycling Classic in Baltimore. And when you know that, you realise just how global, indeed, the reach of cycling is. And it's fantastic that she's off and underway. Meanwhile, riding with Frolova, I think we'll possibly be staying with her for quite some time, because this, I imagine, will be our give us a genuine sense of how this course is starting to run. Aurelia Albachs of Mauritius is also one to watch out for. Anna van der Breggen comes off reasonably early. She's about midway through our entire roster, and she'll be off the ramp in about probably half an hour's time, something like that. And when she gets underway, I imagine that at that point we're going to see just how wearing this course is going to be for some of the favourites who will, of course, come later. We'll be finishing off with Demi Vollering at the end today. When you have a degree of humidity as well, and it is described as a dry season, this, so it's not as heavy as you might think, but for some Europeans, they're very much feeling it because there is a tropical sense to, indeed, the ambience here, and that can have a wearing effect to those who are not used to it.
Completely, and you've seen different responses just across social media and interviews pre-race from different riders saying, oh, I was really worried that the humidity would be huge and it would be a major factor, but actually they've said, oh, it's not as bad as we thought when we've got here. Other riders have suffered more as they've sort of acclimatised in the last few days. So I guess it goes down to the fact that athletes are humans and from different parts of the world and have done different preparations coming in, and conditions are going to affect people differently. But yeah, I think some riders have said, I think Luke Plapp was saying yesterday that it wasn't perhaps as significant as they thought, but when you come in on the morning and you see what the ultimate temperature is going to be, how the air quality is feeling, how you're adapting to that altitude, there's so many elements at play. But yeah, definitely an interesting one here in Africa.
Paladin of Italy about to get us started. This is Soraya about to take to the ramp, and more Europeans are now going to start to reveal themselves as far as this course is concerned. She's had a pretty good run, the 32-year-old, a veteran status, I think you might say. Some of her results this year just been ebbing a little bit. She was 6th in the national road race of Italy. But she has achieved an awful lot. Second in the Navarro Women's Elite Classic behind Kat Ferguson, actually, at Movistar. So Paladin can actually pull it out of the bag on occasion. I wouldn't say that time trialling is possibly her specialism, but that means that if you're more of a classic rider, of which I think you can possibly say that she is. She won the Giro della Marche in Rosa to announce herself, really, about 6 or 8 years ago. But as also, 3 times she's finished in the top 5 in the Amstel Gold Race. That gives you a sense of the sort of classic nature that has attracted some riders. It's actually put a few off as well, I must say. Some of the pure time trialists have said this is too tough for them and haven't made the trip. But it's opened it up. There's a wider field of riders who can actually achieve here.
Yeah, it's a really exciting day. I do truly believe that because, yeah, it's a very interesting mixed field. And I think, as you say, there is disappointment in some of the riders